What's up, everybody? It's Chad. I'm back again with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic here on the second season. Yes, we made it to the second season. I'm here today with my friend Bennett Castro. Thanks, Bennett, for joining me.
Hi. So people typically call me B. So if you know me, you have heard me be referred to as B, but you can call me Bennett or B, but B for short.
Yeah, that's what we call all the times, but I like to tell people their real names. But if you want to go by something else, yeah. But yeah, I call her B as well. It's kind of interchangeable, to be honest. Yeah,
It
I kind
really
of
is.
find myself interchangeable.
In the
So, but
professional sense, I'm Bennett.
that makes sense. Yeah. So thank you again for joining me today. I'm glad that, I finally got to get you on the podcast. I know you had your own for, a little bit with, the other business you're working with. So it's good to get you
Yeah,
back in here, get in the seat.
I'm excited. This was definitely one of the most organized and like planned out podcasts I have ever done. So thank you for that, Chad. I can say that no wonder your podcast has, this many episodes and this many seasons because, you got it figured out. So thank you for putting such a good podcast out.
I appreciate that. It's the first time someone's told me about that. I guess they just kind of expect podcasts to be that way, but I don't like being unorganized when it comes to this, so I don't want anybody else to feel that
No,
way.
you'd be surprised how unorganized podcasts can get. So yeah.
Cool. Well, appreciate you on, and I appreciate that, a compliment because that's huge. Made my day. But first off, I want to explain to everybody. I have COVID, so that's the reason why me and Bennett aren't in the same room. Because normally I have my guest right next to me, and we're having a good conversation. But I don't want to get anybody sick, so I'm quarantining right
No
now.
worries.
Luckily, it's not as bad as it was like 3 years ago. It was my third time getting COVID. So 3-4 years ago, this would have been terrible. So yeah, we're doing it remote. Bennett, thank you again for joining me. And why don't we just jump into it? Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So, as we mentioned, my name's Bennett. I have been in the cannabis industry for 3.5 years. I am a single canna mom, so I basically raise my kiddo on my own, but I do get to co-parent. So that's a little bit of a tricky situation there, especially when one parent is pro, parent is anti-cannabis. Um, I started my cannabis journey when I was about 12 or 13 years old, as most teenagers do. But compared to other teenagers, I didn't get a hold of it through school or other teenagers or anything like that. I actually was introduced to cannabis by my mom and my stepdad, which I consider my stepdad more like my dad. But I was actually introduced to cannabis by them, and they made me do my research before I decided to consume cannabis. And the one and only thing I researched before I decided to consume cannabis was, does cannabis kill anybody? Or does marijuana kill anyone? And of course, the research that came up, there has been zero deaths. And to this day, there's zero deaths reported. So I knew that I was safe and that I was good to go. I wanted to try this out. I tried this out. And, during this time, my mom had also been diagnosed with stage 3B cervical cancer. So basically almost terminal. So she was using it as medication, as just something to aid the side effects that chemotherapy and radiation were giving her. So it would help her with her appetite, or it would help her with the pain. And I firsthand got to witness all of that. I got to witness getting oils and tinctures shipped in from out of state. I know it's illegal, but the people were willing to help out this person who was deathly ill. And it was a beautiful thing to see the cannabis community come together like that, especially from like Colorado, California, and Washington. And it was really beautiful. Unfortunately, my mom did lose her battle to cancer when I was 15, in 2016. And that definitely left a huge hole in my heart, but it definitely sparked a passion and just like a mission for a personal mission to make sure that patients have safe access, and nobody should feel like a criminal for having or wanting to medicate themselves naturally, especially when there's reports and stuff already out there. Back in 2012, I remember hearing weed cures cancer, and but we never knew why or how, and everybody just assumed you had to smoke it, and that's how we would do it. But now that I've actually been around, I know that that's not the case. But my mom was also well known for advocating in Texas or in El Paso. So she went down as a fighter. She fought cancer. She She fought, some legislation in El Paso. My dad founded the first El Paso normal, I mean the first normal chapter in El Paso. So that's pretty huge because there's only like 3 or 4 chapters in Texas itself. And if you don't know what normal is, it's the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's a nonprofit organization that gets we have a world normal, we have a states normal, and then we have, you know, like city normals. So it's pretty cool to see that, my family was, the people who kick-started and the reason for that why it happened in El Paso. So I guess you could say that, cannabis education and cannabis advocacy was definitely a really big thing in my life as a teenager compared to most other teenagers who just smoke it for fun or like keep it out of their parents' reach. I had to hide smoking with my friends from my parents because that was not allowed. And my grades had to be 85 and above if I wanted to consume or if I wanted to have a phone or if I wanted to, be ungrounded. So I definitely had rules and stuff. It wasn't like my mom just let me smoke or anything. But so that's basically how I started with cannabis and like what kickstarted a little bit of my passion with cannabis.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. It was a very detailed explanation, and you went into a lot of depth because I've known your dad for many years, and the normal thing is kind of where I met him initially, when he was doing that. So it's great that you stepped in his shoes, essentially trying to continue the advocating and everything like that. So when did you
Big
get
shoes
into the?
to fill.
Oh yeah, it's really big because Texas is a big state.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're still working on it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a work in progress. I've been, tag teaming with him on the Texas thing for years. Whatever I could do from this side to help because El Paso, and Cruces, whatever happens to us, it happens to the other.
It
And so
really
it
does.
only makes sense. We're better
Yep.
together. So when did you get into the industry yourself, the legal cannabis industry?
So I got into the legal cannabis industry when I turned 21. So I guess you could say that I've been doing this for the majority of my adult life. This has been my serious job now for 3.5 years. So in September of 2020, during the COVID times, I got put in as a bud tender here in Las Cruces, and then I ended up turning into a travel bud tender due to COVID. So, dispensaries were falling short on staff because of people coming up positive for COVID or just being was it called? What was it called? Exposed to
Yeah.
someone with COVID, so they were having to stay home. So I essentially, me and my stepdad, were we were the travel team for this one company, and we were being sent to Alamogordo, to Roswell, to Ruidoso, to Carlsbad, just to go fill in the spots so that the business could keep running. And cannabis was deemed essential at that point because it was medical cards only. So the places needed to run. These little cities definitely needed their cannabis. So it was pretty cool. After that, I finally found a home in Sunland Park, and Sunland Park was where I started attending. So I have clients all over New Mexico, I guess I could say, or patients, or I've
Yeah.
met people from all over New Mexico, and I've attended people from all over New Mexico, which is pretty cool. So after Sunland Park, I ended up moving over to Las Cruces and then Chaparral, and so that was with a whole different company. So now I'm with a whole different company. 3 years later, I've done 3 different companies, and I've gotten so much experience and so much knowledge from all of them.
Yeah. Well, that's
So it's
great.
been it's been a ride.
It has, and to be honest, I've been able to watch you, you grow a little bit. I met you when we were both at High Horse, my short stint there, and
Yeah.
I've watched you start as someone who came pretty much from the first role in the industry to now where you're at. Your management, right? Are you
No,
doing
well,
management?
actually, I was management. That was my position in at High Horse, but I had to part ways with High Horse, and now I'm with Top Crop. But with Top Crop, I'm starting from the bottom. I've been doing front desk, doing bud tending, so I've started doing bud tending here and there a little bit, and it's been pretty awesome to kind of, I guess you could say, like start over, but with all the knowledge that I've accumulated as management and as a trainer, because I was also a trainer. I would train bud tenders, I would train the managers, assistant managers, and then aside from that, we also had the podcast that, just was solely for education and only for to teach bud tenders on how to bud tend, how to sell the product, how to introduce something to someone. So it was it's definitely been a little bit like bittersweet to have to start over, but I see it as a positive because I just get to do it over again, but the right way and like with so much wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, 100%. I've had to do the same thing myself a few times, start over. And this podcast is a start over. So, I'm never afraid to start over, and you're doing it right, and you understand that sometimes you do have to start over.
Yeah,
So,
it's life, it happens. So, but I am definitely excited to continue and see what the cannabis industry holds for me. Because I have big plans and I have a huge passion for, advocating, but mostly advocating for the patients and advocating, for the medical aspect of cannabis.
that's awesome. And
Everyone's
that's
a
one thing
patient.
that's what I've always supported about you, is that, you're always for the patients yourself too. Because, I came from that myself, and, 11 years and fighting for the patients, still am to this day. So I'm glad that, you're wanting to do that too. And especially, being from Texas, once that goes, you'll have all that experience to take it over there. That's why I tell, all you girls, from over that area, I'm like, you guys you're getting trained from this side, and you're going to take it to Texas and kick ass,
Well,
because everything
to
that we're
be
doing here.
fair, I'm excited for that part because to be fair, that's what I started the intention. That's where the intention came from. But if you know me, I actually was raised in Las Cruces, so I'm a little Rio Grande girl. I can't really claim Texas and I can't really claim New Mexico. I'm a little bit of both. So it's beautiful to see, my home, my where I grew up, my hometown and my home state, thrive and flourish with, the legal cannabis, but I also get to reap the benefits of that and gain all the knowledge for once Texas that does transfer over, does see the light of the day. Maybe I could go over there and, like you said, the girls, Tracy and Nicole, I appreciate the advocacy that, you're helping those girls out with because, it really is shaping the future of Texas and the future of women in cannabis in Texas. Like we're gonna come in with a bang. I already feel it, and I'm excited for it.
I am too. I'm excited to see what you girls, are going to be able to do, and, everything that you're going to accomplish in Texas, because you guys are taking a different route than a lot of other states. It's great to see that, because I'm glad New Mexico ourselves, we went a different route. So now other states can see that you can go a different route. It does work. So my fingers are crossed that Texas sees the light, in the same way, but that part of me still.
Yeah,
So
yeah, me
it'll be
too.
time, you know.
It irks me when people are like, Texas will be the last one. And I'm like, with that mentality, it will. Stop it. Please stop it.
To be honest, I think Idaho will be the very last one. To be honest, oof, they're
That's why
something
I'm
else.
like, Texas already is decriminalized. They're already one little tiny step ahead. They have a mini little medical program. So please don't say that. Please don't put it out in the universe like that. We need positive vibes and we need better people in office that actually want, good for the patients, good for the people. And, people who, I mean, people in office need to realize in Texas that if you look around to Colorado, New Mexico, those taxes are flowing in so much. Like, forget the oil, forget the guns, forget the alcohol. The cannabis alone will fund Texas. Like, but that's Texas. But I'm glad to be in New Mexico. I'm glad to be soaking it all in and just being part of my hometown and getting to change the stigma a little bit, because I think one of my favorite things to do is change the older Hispanic mindsets, because that's who I struggle with. It started at home, but then when I run into people at the stores that give me dirty looks because of my cannabis leaf shirt or whatever, I definitely I'll spark that conversation like, what is your biggest concern with it? And a lot of them compare it to alcohol. So right there, I break that stigma. I'm like, nope, nothing compared to alcohol when it comes to cannabis. Like,
Oh yeah, night and
so
day. Yeah, there's no
night and day
comparison. To be honest, at
at
one
all.
time I didn't know how to respond to someone when I was wearing a weed hat. That little hay one I have, and I was wearing it at Walmart. And this dude comes up and he like invites me to his church. He doesn't say he hates weed. He doesn't say you're a dirty stoner. He just says, I want to invite you to my church. Like I need you to be saved. And I was like, and so I told him I didn't believe in Jesus and God and all that shit just to piss him off and leave me alone because that was weird. Like I was just minding my own business. I was trying to get
That is
something from the
weird.
deli. It's just
You're like, I'm just here doing my shopping. Leave me alone, please.
yeah, I just want
Don't
mashed potatoes
and
and chicken
see.
strips, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, speaking about the education and stuff. So, what are some good resources you can give people that are just starting out in the industry, to look up information because you have learned a lot in just the few years you've been in the industry so far. You and all the girls.
So I can say with my time in the industry, I've actually I could say proudly I can say that I've helped out both of the girls, I've taught them a lot, but they on their own have gone on their own path and found so much more knowledge on their own. So when I put them into perspective, I case studies and all that is definitely a given. You can find your research there, but it's over repetition, over how do you say it? Like testimonies from your clients. That is the biggest thing that I can say where I have gained most of my knowledge is testimonies from clients. But other than that, there's so many things out there. There's articles out there for sure, but that's what I don't like to send people to articles because it can get really misleading.
Yeah.
And you never know if you're finding a pro cannabis article or an anti cannabis article, and they're out there, So I think it really is just experience. If you're trying to get in there, you search your basics, and once you find out your basics, you memorize your basics, then you apply your basics once you're bud tending. Once you apply your basics in the bud tending, let's just take cannabinoids for example. You can guide and lead people in the proper way on how to use cannabinoids for them, and for once they come back and they give you their testimony on, this cannabinoid did me better than THC did, it just it leads you with so much more knowledge of, it's just everyone is so different. So I can say that I've just learned by my clients and my patients. I can't say I've gone to very specific. Rafael Metrolam, that's definitely one man that I have learned so much from. I anytime I want to teach anyone anything that, just so they can understand it, him. Israel studies, definitely always that. But I hate to say it, but weed maps and Leafly and stuff like that can be a little bit unreliable, especially here in New Mexico, because a lot of
Yeah.
that is like California and like Colorado based information. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know if I can say a set answer on like where to find your information, but podcasts like this or, information like that, I definitely, that's where you'll find it. It's just experience.
And believe it or not, I've found a lot of great information on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter X. There's a lot of great information
Everybody
because what's up?
everybody still calls it Twitter, but yeah, because it's uncensored so that nothing gets blocked.
And it's easier to
I love
search
that.
like for particular things. I just type in cannabis and I hit latest, and it goes within the seconds of the person that's mentioned anything cannabis, even their username. So yeah,
Perfect.
I like it. There's times where I'll find it first on Twitter, and then it's maybe on the rest of the internet a day later or a couple hours later. But Twitter for some reason gets it first. And so I'll go there, and like before the podcast, I
For
go on
sure.
there and see what articles popped up, or maybe someone's had a personal thing like, hey, this is happening, and I know it's going to happen because the person that they are, maybe they're a legislator or something, and like, oh shit, what's coming out down the pipe. So it's an open source intelligence kind of place to be.
For
So
sure. For sure. And then from there, I would definitely recommend you take that and do your own research upon that, because there's different people out there that just kind of put anything out there, especially for Twitter, or X. So, but yes, it's just there's so many resources out there. It's just knowing where to find a trusted resource. So peer-reviewed studies or your own experience, your own testimonies. That's what I can say.
right, awesome. Well, I appreciate
Reddit
giving us.
too.
Yes, Reddit. I love using Reddit.
Reddit.
Reddit is another good tool for sharing
I
information too.
go in rabbit hole on Reddit. Yeah.
I hate it because I do that too. Yeah, I do the same thing. So that's great. Oh, let's go back and talk a little bit about training. You touched a little bit on that, and I really wanted to talk about that because I think training and education and teaching are really important components in the industry that really isn't happening as much as it should. So what is some things that maybe a business can do that will help their employees with training or education that you found through your experience?
So from my experience, as a manager, I can say that it's a little bit hard to do our full training and our full knowledge when we don't have manufacturers, producers, and stuff like that, not really getting or putting full testing results on the product that we're getting, or even sending out, the proper testing results, because cannabinoids are really important. Terpenes are really important, especially for wanting to teach your bud tenders on how to teach their clients on how to properly use cannabis. So when we don't have the proper tools to teach our bud tenders, our bud tenders don't also have the proper tools to teach, the clients and the patients. So I could say, as a whole, I think we all need to do better about, demanding and requesting those types of testing, those types of results, because it makes the cannabis experience 100% much better. Once you know what total active cannabinoids are in your product, the person can better decipher if they can use this at night, or if you can use this for work, or if this is for pain, or if this is for sleep. It definitely it shapes and it makes the training so much easier. But in the time right now that I can mention, what you can do at this moment is start off with the basics. Rafael Metrolam is one of my favorite people to sit down, someone that I'm going to train for the very first time. You listen to that man for a few seconds and it just all makes sense. He explains the science of cannabis so seamlessly, so perfect, that it starts opening up little questions, and it opens up these little bubbles of like, oh, well, that makes sense. Oh, the aha moments.
Yeah.
And so from there, definitely focusing on cannabinoids and terpenes to teach the patient, I mean, to teach your bud tenders to teach patients that. And having them be able to read testing results is really important. Having them be able to not upsell the latest trendy product, but rather than just help that client themselves, really listen to a client. I don't think bartenders really realize the weight of their words when it comes to, the clients that they're helping. Because if you are a client or a patient that doesn't know much about cannabis, you're not going to go to your doctor first thing, because your doctor might give you the weird shun look, or that's not going to be the first person you go to. If you have a trusted family member that you're like, you know what, they know a little bit about cannabis, I'm going to ask them. Most of the time, I know I'm that family member. People ask me random questions in my family just because they're like, oh, you work at the dispensary. Hey, what about this? But when you're the bud tender and someone's visiting the dispensary, that's because they're coming to ask you because they know that you know more than them. So we have to understand that our word is almost hand in hand like someone's doctor, because they're using this as their medication, and they're going home and taking your word for it. So our word, we really have to be educated on what we're selling, how we're educating people, and what we're putting out there, because our opinion and our recommendations really are held to a high standard. A butt tender is not a light name. Like, it sounds as fun as a bartender, but it's not. Like, you carry a lot of weight on that. And so I could say, especially, back in the day when it was only medical, being a bud tender at that point, it was serious stuff. Like, you were helping only medical people for the most part. But now, you have your adult use, and now you have your medical side, and you get to help the people that, they're just looking for something fun, something to smoke. But then you get the people that are, trying it out for medicine for the very first time in their life. And, it's really crucial to know what you're talking about, and make sure that your bartenders know what they're talking about, because it trickles on to the history and the stigma, I think.
Yeah, and I'm learning that. I mean, I've always known cannabis obviously has a stigma, but even with like psilocybin, cannabis has more of a stigma than psilocybin mushrooms. That is blowing my mind right now because
It
everywhere I
had
go,
I noticed that too.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. You know, like
I
they're
noticed
reluctant against weed, but they weird and okay with mushrooms.
it's
Does
the reefer madness propaganda because it's all the older heads that, they experimented with their mushrooms here and there and they kept it a secret and it wasn't much of a thing. It was just the hippie thing to do back then. And then, nowadays there's lion's mane in almost every other coffee product that you can find, or, so it's like it's I don't know. But it's definitely the old heads. The reefer madness propaganda definitely got to them and they were just like, no, 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 no.
this is bad? This is bad. But I'm like, but what mushrooms make you trip balls?
Literally. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, you got to be, a little careful about your dosages with it. Yeah. So, that's one thing that I've noticed too. And, that hopefully that'll change in the future. We're trying to kill the stigma, with cannabis, and, maybe psilocybin will help us, make it see like, okay, like maybe it is kind of dumb that I have this weird stigma about cannabis when I'm okay with these mushrooms. Maybe people will realize that, and say like, oh shit, I was wrong this whole time, because it's okay to be wrong. Like that's how we learn.
Yeah. It's okay to learn something new and change your opinion on it. Like that's normal. We need to normalize that because once you learn a little bit of more information on something, it's okay to change your opinion if for your whole life you've been against it or for something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. There's been times where, I had a certain opinion, when I was in the military, I got out and then someone changed my mind because they gave me their opinion. And to be honest, I was like, how can I disagree with that? Like, you know, so
Right.
it's totally,
Mhm.
yeah, people need to understand that it's okay to change what you believe in, like you don't have to keep it the same way. Humans are constantly changing. So, but I appreciate that tidbit. Like that's one thing I've noticed is a lot of people aren't as educated on products, individual products that they have in their store, like they should. And especially like some of the bud tenders, I'll go in and I'll test people. I will ask them specific stupid questions or specific basic questions, or try to get away with a 70% discount. I'll top it with my veteran discount just to see what they tell me. And I'm just gauging what the training is. And to be honest, it's not there yet. Like not everywhere. There's certain places that I would be comfortable doing that with, and I know they're going to give me the right answers. But a lot of the places I go to, when I do this, either the manager doesn't, do it right, or the bud tender's confused and like, oh, you don't want highest THC? I was like, no, I want the tastiest shit, dude. What? Give me something high terpenes, and then they're confused. So it's
Yeah.
cool that
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of them.
yeah,
I think that's something that our overall New Mexico definitely needs to focus on is their bartender training for sure. And but it's also, like I mentioned, it does fall back onto our producers too. We can't do much in the bartender sense if our producers aren't providing, the proper testing and the proper stuff. And I know we've talked about it at town halls and stuff like that. We need more reliable testing labs and all that. So it just kind of trickles on back a little bit further. So I think we just gotta tweak up some things, but I have this high standard over here for our bartenders.
no, I mean, as it should be, that there should be a higher standard for them. It's just not showing up. What do you want, man? It's the stigma we need to get away from. And that's the mindset that we have to get away from too, that dumb stoner mentality. All right. So can you give some of the young women listeners that are looking to get into the cannabis industry some advice on getting into the industry, maybe what they can expect, from someone that's, had some experience already in it?
So, as being a woman, I actually, a lot of people seem to think that I got my job because of my dad, Colt. But fun fact, I actually got hired before him, and I had to actually convince him to get into the industry as well. So
Yeah.
he did, did make connections for me, but my education and my interview spoke for itself after that. So I don't let anybody else's name, hinder yours. That's what I can say. I have big shoes to fill when it comes to my stepdad, but I can proudly say that it wasn't necessarily because of him that I got into the industry. It just spoke because of what I did with him is that what helped out. So with that, just get involved in cannabis projects like the marijuana marches that we have in Texas. If you're from Texas or if you're from New Mexico, get involved in town hall sessions. Get involved. Just get involved. That's going to be your first step in understanding cannabis, understanding the cannabis community. Because as much as you may be smoking for some years now, that doesn't necessarily give you a whole rundown of how it entails, or what the cannabis industry entails at all. So, and that's definitely one that I can recommend. Another is definitely do your education. One of my favorite things to do is find female cannabis influencers. Um, Influencers is a really like wide used name now, or wide used word now. So, but what I mean is like there's like Cannabis Cutie. She's a BSN, and she has a whole book club, and it's a cannabis book club, and it's a
That's cool.
women's cannabis book club. So, we end up reading cookbooks, or like mom and cannabis books, stuff like that. Get follow people, that inspire you to do something that you want to do. So there's just that's literally what I did to get myself into the position that I am now. And then get your education up, because without your education, girl, you're not going to be able to get much further than any of the dudes around.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things that have always wanted to speak on is we're more than just a pretty face in the industry, and that's what I want to be. Like, I want to teach the women in the industry that we're more than just our bodies, we're more than just our pretty face. Like, we're more than just the beauty. Like, we have brains, we have nurturing. Like, I can say that women that grow cannabis have a much more nurturing touch than men. So, and that's not to talk crap about men. Men have passion with it, but nurturing just comes natural when it comes to a woman. And so I could say that, we have a huge role in the cannabis industry as women. The plants are ladies, and we know what ladies like.
And New Mexico actually has one of the highest rates of women in the industry out of the whole nation. So that's
Yeah,
something that I can see continuing on. We're trendsetters in New Mexico. It's just people don't know we're here.
I love that. I really do love that. I've noticed so many businesses being women owned here in New Mexico, when in Arizona they've barely celebrated the first Black owned women dispensary owner like last year. So it really is. New Mexico is going to be a huge beneficial start for any woman who wants to begin, because we really don't have a lot of binds to us. It's just, doing the education, doing research, and, putting you're only as worth as the knowledge. If your knowledge was your worth, then it's well earned, like Miss Badu said. So
Yeah.
we just it all comes into what what you provide, and as a woman, you can provide a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up with sisters, and there's just certain things that they're better at than me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Like, I can't push a baby out. My sister
No,
pushed out too.
yeah.
So yeah. It's great that you're giving this advice to the young women wanting to get into the industry, because I've been approached by a couple of my cousins, my female cousins, who want to get into the industry. One wants to grow, and I was all for it because I want to see more women growing in the industry. The guys,
I
like
think
Bennett said, you
women
aren't just
is
a
the
pretty face, you
perfect.
aren't just a butt tender. you know
Exactly, exactly. And I can say, for the ladies out there, if you don't like, extra attention, bud tending is probably not going to be for you, because, there's a lot of folks out here that don't know how to keep their compliments to themselves, like, or their far end compliments. Compliments are nice, I get that, but it's just the same thing as like working in the service. You're working retail, people are gonna have their comments, and you can be made uncomfortable. You work at the grow, it's just you and the ladies, you're maybe grow dog, and shit, it's just, and you get to nurture and talk to the plants however you want, and play whatever you want for the plants. And I think all of those little things definitely play into how the plant is grown and how the plant ends up. So, yeah. So I would love to see more female growers too, just because, like I said, I feel women have more of that nurturing touch, and I've known more women with a green thumb. I love when men have a green thumb. Like you have a green thumb. I've never seen
Thank you.
a garden as nice as yours. So I really do enjoy to see that. But women do have that nurturing touch, and it's natural. That's what we're meant to do. So it's natural. We
Yeah.
need the women out there growing for us.
Yeah, because for the longest time it was seen as unmasculine for a man to garden. Even grow flowers. I love growing
Yes.
flowers. They smell amazing. You guys are crazy if you don't like them. So yeah, it is more of a woman thing to see that. And I like seeing that. Like, Erin, she does a great job with those
Oh my
plants. Oh my God, her
gosh.
bonsais are so
The
gorgeous.
bonsais, the
Oh,
bonsais are even like that is a whole nother step to it. Like, she grows great. Now, bonsai, that just puts it a whole nother level. Like she just doesn't give anyone any room to, compare there. I'm like, yes, girl, you get it. And I love that. I love to see these strong-minded women, shaping New Mexico like that, because her stuff has gone viral. I've seen her stuff all over the place, and I'm like, I know
Dude,
her. I know her.
me too. Like my friend will post, I'm like, oh my god, I know her, that's my
Literally,
friend.
it's always, and then during Veterans Day or Memorial Day, it's always the one where that she did with the little soldier, like push it. Yeah. So I've
Yeah.
always I've always seen that one go around, and yeah. So I think that women can really bring something different to the table when it comes to the cannabis industry, um, and I'm not a he-man man hater or whatever, but I do think that I would love to see more cannabis business owners and cannabis growers. Um, yeah, just let's get out there, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So if any young women that are looking to get into the industry, there's just some really great advice and tips, from someone that's been in the industry for a while now. So yeah, thank you for that. And before we move on to our next topics, where can people find you online? Like Instagram, Facebook?
So my cannabis Instagram is gonna be honeybeedabz. So honey bee, correct spelling of the, and then dabs is gonna be dabs, but with a Z at the end. So honeybeedabz. That's gonna be my cannabis Instagram. I have been taken down quite a few times by Instagram. So this Instagram is kind of like, I've already gotten a little bit tired of putting my all into my content just for it to get taken down. So please bear with me as I try and get my content up and out there. But because I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to content, and that really holds me back sometimes. On putting content out because I'm so hard on myself. I'm like, I don't like this. I wouldn't watch this. I wouldn't like this. So I'm just not gonna put it out. So I'm like, no. And so I just try and put a little bit of something out at least just to get people to know me. But I've
Yeah.
been wanting to put out an intro so people can understand why I'm in the industry and how long I've been in the industry. So this kind of helps out.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. And actually, I tag Bennett in all my educational posts and informational posts. So if you guys want to follow her from there, she's actually tagged in something right now. So yeah, and it's great that you're going that route and you're wanting to educate more, because I can only do so much. Like I can't do it by myself, and it's great that the crazy thing is it's mostly women that are offering to help me, and so
Yes.
yeah, I'm just like, I'll take it. It's
Well,
dope for
and
me.
then we can definitely get that side of things where it gets broken down and a little bit prettified, and then it just looks a little bit better to the eye, a little more eye catching. So we got you. And what you do for us is you kind of like, you do the search, you break it down, and then I don't want to say dumb it down, but you put it in like simple terms that we can, fully understand, but and explain to clients, because that's during the drive-throughs, like the drive-through uh,
That crazy
session.
freaking, yeah.
Every drive-through person that I helped, and if I saw a car seat in the back, I would let them know what was going on. I was like, just so you know, there's drive-throughs wanting to be taken away, and if if this benefits you for your child, like for you not to have to come in and not leave your child unattended, I need you to go call your representative right now. And it just because it, as a parent, it just is like, oh wow, I don't want to be this. Other people, they just, mm, oh, that sucks, but they wouldn't really do much about it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but those parents, they had a big concern with a big concern with it, because I could relate. I wouldn't want drive-throughs taken away from me, because that's a convenience as a parent. I don't have to leave my child unattended in the car while I run in. I don't have to make anyone feel uncomfortable for bringing my child inside, and that's not even allowed anymore. But you know, it's just uh, that whole part was crazy. But I love to teach people, and thank you for doing all that research and having us teach simple to the clients.
Yeah, I like breaking it down Barney style is what I like saying. Just make it
That's exactly.
easy, for the most common country boy to
There
understand
you
it.
go. Hmm.
And yeah, it helps. Like I said, I push the information out, and you guys make it pretty. Like there's times where I only have time to push the information out, then I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate you ladies making it look good, and spreading the information and the word and everything. So I really appreciate that. So, but anyway, yeah, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next topic, because I could sit here and talk about advocacy and stuff all day.
Literally same.
So the next topic I want to talk about, at first I wanted to talk about the study, but as I started to read the study more and I started to write my guide, I realized that I wasn't talking about the study. I was talking about the media and how much I hate the media sometimes. And to be honest, it's most of the time. And what I'm saying is that there was a study that was put out at the time of recording, because we record a day ahead of time from the release. There's a study that came out that's trying to say that there's a linkage between cannabis use, any kind of cannabis use whatsoever, and heart disease and strokes. Now that sounds alarming right from the get. Seeing the headline, it's saying just pretty much that. That just like raises alarms, like, oh my god, what? So I decided to look at the article, skim through it. I was looking for the research paper. I didn't want to read the article. I'm like, no, I'm not going to read any of this bullshit. They're just going to, tell me stuff I already know, or, some other shit. So I went to the study. Now, if you look at the study, you get a different kind of point of view from what they were saying in the news article. And don't let the media think for yourself. Even me, don't let me think for you. I really want you guys to come to your own conclusions on certain things. I'm giving you the information. Please come to your own conclusions. Like with this study, I will share the link. Gino, if you can put this link, I'm gonna share you at the end. It's to the actual article. That way you guys can read it yourself. You can go and make your own conclusions on the study. It tells you who funded the study. It tells you who's involved with the study. It even tells you the limitations of the study, which is great. This is all scientific data that we need, and it needs to be read. So the way these studies work is not just one study is going to, make it as fact. Now, this study is going to be taken by someone, probably more scientist, and they're going to scrutinize it. They're going to say, okay, you did this and this and this. I don't agree with this. We're going to do this. So this is just one study. And I can guarantee you, probably in like 4 or 5 months, there's going to be another counter study that says the opposite. Because I think last year I saw something that said, sperm count goes down for men who use cannabis. A couple months later, it debunked that. And so I'm always weary when studies, even pro cannabis studies, come out because of that. So like, what is your experience yourself on, stuff like this?
So I definitely think that it's important to look into, especially who's funding these researches, because
100%.
that will tell you a lot. Um, yeah, just who it's being funded by will tell you if it's going to be for or against cannabis, or if it really is just for genuine study. Um, but in my history of in my experience, I've definitely noticed that there's a lot of debunks after the fact, or there's just you get one set of reports one time and then another set. The biggest one that I remember seeing was for epilepsy back in the day, and now it's proven that that helps with your um, what's it called, the thing, I don't know what any types of seizures, so epilepsy and just any brain issues. And what did we hear in the beginning? That cannabis kills brain cells. That's my favorite thing to debunk for people. I'm like, do you know how they got that study? Do you know how they got that research? They pumped apes with a bunch of gas, and I mean with a bunch of smoke, and it basically killed all their brain cells. So of course they lost brain cells. That was due to asphyxiation of the smoke, not due to the cannabis. So it's really important to look at all the behind of the studies and look at the peer reviews. Especially peer reviews are something that I definitely recommend to people. Don't just take any research or any study for what it is. The peer reviewed ones. And I honestly, I will always search for a study more so that comes from Israel, not Italy. I'm so sorry, from Israel. Just because Israel is, it's the mecca for cannabis research, and I don't foresee it being based on an agenda.
Yeah, my mic was muted. I didn't realize that. I don't know what happened. Yeah, 100%. And if a lot of you guys don't know, the listeners, Israel is actually leading the world in cannabis research, not just, that part of the world, the entire globe in cannabis research. They're actually so advanced. I think about 10 years ago, they were trying to pinpoint cannabis cultivars by the terpene profile. And, that they were like, they're so mixed now, we have no clue what. It's just better for us to go by terpene profiles, because that seems to be more reliable, and that seems
Yep.
to be more steady between grows and everything. So that was interesting, because then they started to come out with these like names that were more medicinal, but they're like based off the terpenes, and it was weird. That was kind of strange, but I mean, they're doing such great research, and so much is coming from it that, yeah, I mean, anytime you have a chance and it's a research paper that comes from Israel, please read it.
Yeah.
Read it again. It'll be a good read.
For sure, and that's where I just because of Mr. Mecholam, that he led all of that, and he's just gone down in history for the man from for cannabis. And
Yeah.
so of course it shaped Israel in itself. So I don't know, when it comes to studies, it's really hard for me to take them a little bit serious, to be honest. It's just um, and yeah, like you said, it's really the media and what they're trying to put out and what agenda they're trying to feed.
Yeah. And the media source I saw this initially from is from a media source that's considered liberal. So, like seeing something like that, I was like, oh, interesting. I figured I'd see that from Fox News. So, let me look at this and open it. And the way they have it laid out and everything, of course, it's all media like, but the link in there at least had it to the study where I can go read it. So I give them that for being that transparent, giving me a link to the
That
exact
too.
study. Right. Yeah. So that was cool. I give them
You
that.
don't see that often.
No, you don't. And that's one reason why I go to that news site, because they give me links to studies and I can actually go and look and be like, I don't really agree with your opinions on this, or that's not really what I think the study's saying, or that's my own opinion. And if you guys are wanting to look at or wanting to know the title of this study, it's called Association of Cannabis Use with Cardiovascular Outcomes Among U.S. Adults. So this is a study that was done only in the United States. I think it was between 55 and 65 and under people. I'm not too sure if there's underlying anything or whatever. I'm sure that's in the study. I haven't had a chance to go through the whole thing. I just enough for me to get an understanding to to give you guys the some of the information enough so you can go read it and make your own decision on it. I'm going to go later and read it myself so I can come to my own conclusion. But most of the time, I don't really take it for fact because I always wait for the other studies to come out. You never go off of one study, even if you agree with it. There's been plenty of times that's changed.
That's fair. Even if you agree with it, I like that.
Yeah, that's science. Science doesn't care if you agree with it or not. What is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. But yeah, I just want to touch up on that. Just be very careful when the media is reporting studies and stuff. I've brushed on studies very lightly in the past, and I really wanted to kind of dig into it now. I'll give you guys the link so that way you can get some experience checking them out. It's very transparent. If you scroll down to the bottom, that's where most of the information is going to be on who funded it, who was a part of the study, what limitations there were, meaning what issues they ran into, which may make the study not true, or like there could
Or
be
not
something that
valid.
invalid. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
Invalidate the study. I couldn't think of the word for whatever reason. It's a COVID brain. But yeah, something that invalidates it. You never know. Studies are meant to be scrutinized and they're meant to be peer reviewed. It's a theory. Actually, excuse me, it's a hypothesis until it's been scrutinized enough and studied enough, then it does become a theory. So, right now it's technically a hypothesis, that this is linking to that. But, I could see the other side too. This could be true in the end. I don't know. But take it with a grain of salt.
True. Yeah. I definitely always take things like that for a grain of salt. Like I said, I don't know if this is fair enough for me to say, but I've just taken people's testimonies for the
Yeah.
correct knowledge, because it's that's my research right there. They went home, they tested it out, they came back and gave me results.
Yeah. And they're not tied to any kind of study or, whatever, they're doing it out of the kindness or whatever, they're like, hey, this helped me with this. And, there was no
For their own better life, or better, what is it, better life of
betterment of
quality
life.
of life,
There you go.
better life. You're giving me COVID brain. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, we're all messed up. So if you guys notice the landscape change, Bennett's actually on a porch right now with better internet. So we're doing it that way because we're having some issues. So she's no longer in the car; she's on a porch. So
I
that's why
had
this.
technical difficulties all around today. So
Yeah,
wish me
Murphy's
luck.
law in effect. So that's all I really had for that topic. We'll go into the last one. I really want to talk about Germany. I didn't get to talk about Germany very much in the past because they actually just legalized cannabis. So wunderbar Deutschland.
Danke.
Yeah. So
What does
I'm
that mean?
excited. Huh?
What did you just say in German?
Oh, wunderbar Deutschland is just wonderful Germany.
Wonderful German.
Yeah, like wonderful
Okay.
Germany, like wonderful. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys didn't know, I grew up in Alamogordo. There's Germans there. Then I did live in Germany for a very short time, and that's actually where I learned majority of my German is when I lived in Germany because I had no choice. I lived in the German villages. Weird contract I was on with the government. We weren't allowed to like live on the base or even use the base facilities. We had a shop in the German like shopping centers and stuff. So I had to learn German quick, like
What?
quick. Yeah.
Well,
Luckily, most of them
because
speak
of you,
English.
because of you, I learned a lot of German, like
Oh, well,
danke.
yeah, no, bitte. So, moving on real quick. Germany legalizes cannabis for people 18 years and older. As you guys know, or don't
18.
know, or some people know, most ages to drink in Europe actually are 18 and over. I think a couple places might be a little bit younger, a couple places maybe a little bit older. I don't know, but for the most part, it's at 18. It's actually a very young age. And actually, in Germany, they stopped going to school, I think, at 10th grade or 11th grade, and they're considered an adult like at 15. Really, I mean, the age of consent there is really low. It's weird. I learned that from the German kids here because they would always be dating like German Air Force dudes, and I'm like, how are they not getting in trouble? Like, oh, in Germany it's fine, and I'm like, what do you mean it's fine? This is I
The
was like,
German accent.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
it's a Germany. Yeah, I'm just used to it. All my German friends are probably gonna see this and laugh. To be honest, they're always making fun of themselves. It's funny. Anyway, you can grow 3 plants at home. Not very many. Here in New Mexico, we're allowed significantly more. But you can at least grow at home. You're allowed 50 grams at home, meaning just about little little less than
Over
two
here.
ounces. Yeah, about a
Yeah.
little less than 2 ounces. And then outside of your home, you're allowed 25 grams, which is just a little under an ounce. As you guys know, 28 grams is around 28 grams is an ounce. So that's what you're allowed in public. It's not very much, but to be honest, I really don't run around with more than an ounce, when I'm out in the wild, so there's really no reason. In New Mexico, if you're a medical cannabis patient, you're allowed 8 ounces in public, or outside of your home at any time. So there's that. I
I
don't
thought it
see
was two.
that's for rec.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's for
Maybe
adult
that's what.
use.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's why that's stuck in my head. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're used to that.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah. It's the medical side. You get big benefits. You can possess more, and you can possess more outside of your home too. So that's a big
Wow.
benefit. April 1st is going to be the date when this starts and when it'll be legal in Germany, which coincides with our adult use sales date.
Okay.
Yeah, our
That's
anniversary,
our
which I
little
think,
anniversary.
yeah, yeah, it's coming up here, but about a month almost. So that's going to be pretty cool to see. Are you guys going to be doing anything for that?
I haven't heard anything thus far, but I might bring it up after this and see if we are.
Okay. And now here's the kicker about Germany's the way they're going about legalization. They're more going with a collective model versus anything, which is interesting and weird. So on July 1st, it's going to be available in licensed nonprofit clubs with no more than 500 members. So all of whom will have to be adults over the age of 18, and only club members would be allowed to consume their output. So I think what it is they're going to be paying a membership fee to go to the club and to buy, use, or whatever the cannabis. And I think that's the way they're going to go about it. I don't know how this is going to curb the black market, because it's almost like a black market style. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
That it sounds like they're doing consumption lounges and skipping the whole entire step of the dispensary. You know what I mean? Of where to purchase the cannabis. So people are gonna show up to this little bar, club, lounge, and be consuming their cannabis in whatever form that they have, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that?" And that'll just start its own little round of more black market sales. So if that's what they were trying to combat, they're not doing a very good job. They didn't think it through. But if that's not something that was on their agenda, then I mean, I guess. But it's also I just don't think there's going to be any control to the cannabis products. So no, I think they're going to need some change very soon.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to make clear is Germany's had medical cannabis on a national level for over a decade now. So they already have that in place, and so there are shops for people to buy. I think this is just for adult use. So because
Yeah,
Germany actually gets cannabis from the Czech Republic and other countries, I think even Israel and Canada, for their medical cannabis program, which I find very interesting as well because they have,
because it goes over borders.
yeah, it goes over country borders. I mean, this is an
Yeah.
international commerce, like this isn't just, you know, interstate, this is international. So yeah, Canada will ship them cannabis, Czech Republic's shipping them a bunch, and they're probably actually going to go the same route as Germany here soon and legalize. So to be honest, we're kind of behind in America with legalization, but when it comes to standardization of the laws, we're doing a little bit better. Because that it seems a little wonky and confusing, like as a medical cannabis patient, I feel more established as a regular business than I do as a rec user. Like
Hmm.
you're in this weird loop where I have to be a part of a consumption lounge essentially. Like I have to be a member of
A
it,
club.
and then I can only consume cannabis from there. Like that's weird. Like
Yeah.
and like if you're a medical cannabis patient, you can get it from Canada, you can get it from Czech Republic, you can get it from Germany, you can get it from Israel at all of your shops. So that's kind of confusing too. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna see, I guess where I'm going is we're gonna see traditional market happen from the medical side to the adult use side because there's going to be more selection.
That's going to be really interesting too, because does that mean that these medical patients in Germany can take that product that they bought and into the club, into that, like if they have the membership? You
Let
know
me
what I
check.
mean?
That's a good question.
Just like
Only
how
member. What's up? Go ahead.
just like how here they don't allow you to take your own stuff into the consumption lounges. You got to buy your stuff at the lounge. But if you're
Yeah,
medical, that's technically medical grade, and the lounge isn't going to contain medical grade.
true. Yeah. So it's like, and
Hmm.
this right here, all it says is only club members would be allowed to consume their output. So whatever they grow, only the members are allowed to use that cannabis. Now, I'm not, it doesn't say anything about bringing their cannabis there. So I'm not sure what this club means. Maybe when they say club, they mean it's a shop. Maybe they mean it's a shop that's a club and it's not like a consumption lounge. Because, they use different wordings over
Terminology.
here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
it's kind of confusing sometimes. Like an apartment's a flat. I was like, what?
No, I need an apartment.
Yeah, I was like, "What? No, I don't
Where
need
is
a
that
flat."
sign?
Yeah, I was like, "What am I gonna
Where?
live in a freaking Adobe?"
On the flatlands.
Right,
That's
the
wild.
flatlands. So, but this comes with a little bit of pushback from certain other parts of the German government. There's certain people part of the government that don't like it. There's also people that are part of essentially their version of the DEA. They don't like it either. They think it's a terrible idea, et cetera, et cetera. But it is what it is, and it looks like the German legislature just went ahead and legalized it nationally. So congrats to Germany, wunderbar. So I'm really excited for you guys. It looks like Europe is kind of almost like Europe is just a bunch of countries put together. It's almost like the states. It reminds me sometimes. Slowly every country in Europe is going to legalize or whatever, and they're kind of headed to that route. Because here in America, we have, I don't know how many states, now over 20 something states that have legal adult use cannabis, and almost over 40 that have medical cannabis. So it's one of those things that it's reminding me of that, and this kind of seems like they're at the forefront. And I'll keep everybody, updated the more information that I find out. I have friends that are in Germany, so I'm gonna ask them about it. Some of them were married to a military guy. Others, I grew up and they're from Germany and they moved back after we graduated high school or whatever. So I'll keep tabs on them and keep asking what's going on because I'm really curious how this is gonna go. You know?
Yeah, I'm curious if they're gonna. I doubt that they would, but if they ever plan to look at like how things are set in the states for, some legislation, and just so they can get a better idea of how things work. I mean, could work for them, you know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't think the US is a big example for a lot of people because
Yeah,
it's
and to
taking
be
us so
honest,
long.
yeah, and to be honest, I don't think any state has done it perfectly yet. New Mexico, we're on the right track, but we haven't done it perfectly yet, and we haven't. No one's figured out how to regulate cannabis yet. We're all still experimenting, and so that's why I'm glad we took a different route. We're like, well, let's not do that. Let's try something else. And for us, it's seemed to work. For our little state. So
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, that's all I had for that Germany thing going on, and I appreciate your input on that because it was an interesting conversation because there's a lot of aspects that a lot of things that go into this, and that they're just going a different route, and I guess it's different. So it's something that I'm just not really used to, I guess, and it's just weird.
Yeah, I'm curious to keep track of this too, because I'm curious what the club means,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
curious if medical clients are gonna have to, resort to club only product when they're used to their medical grade.
yeah,
So I think that's important because I feel like that's been a big, I could say that has been my big concern here in New Mexico is the consumption lounges, that you can't take your own stuff in, but you're not, what if you're not really fond of the products at the lounge that you're going towards?
yeah.
So it's just, so that's how I see it. That was my concern for Germany. I'm like, oh, but let's see how that goes. I didn't know that they had all this international cannabis coming in through though. That was new to me. That's
Yeah.
definitely new. So thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. You know, I'm always glad to share new tidbits of information that helps people out. So, yeah, that's why when they tell us we can't legalize federally because of whatever international law, I'm like, oh bullshit! Look at all these other countries. You guys are fucking just bullshitting me. You're like, no one
Literally.
cares. So, but
Oh
but
my
anyway,
gosh.
that's all I have for this week's episode and everything. And I really appreciate you joining me, Bennett. You know, it's been a really
Thank
good
you.
conversation. Sorry we had some issues, but we did get it fixed and figure out in the
We
end.
got through it, you know. That's how you know it's going to be a good one because we had all the issues and we still got through it.
Right, and we're gonna have Gino doing the great edits on it and everything. So yeah,
Perfect.
but I appreciate you showing me, and everybody watching. Please sure to make sure you like, follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do to make sure that you don't miss an update on what's going on. All right, everybody, thank you so much, Bennett. Thank
Have
you
a good
again
one.
so much, and I will see
Bye
you here soon, probably around the corner, and
bye.
we'll see y'all next week. All right, guys, shoots.
See you. Bye bye.